Welcome everybody to another episode of our FYI webinar series hosted by PALCUS. I'm really excited for today's webinar because I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with different folks about business opportunities in Portugal, how much entrepreneurship and new exciting things are happening in Portugal, and then how do we bridge that world and our world here with the diaspora and everything that's going on, whether it be Silicon Valley or other parts of the country. And then there's a lot of interest in people wanting to invest in Portugal or vice versa, and just work with the entrepreneurs coming out of Portugal. So we're very excited to have Luisa Pais Lowe, who is with the Gabinete de Apoio Investidor da Diáspora, and she's going to tell us about a series of conferences that the government has been home to address this very issue. And I'm really excited to hear not only what the program is about, but some examples of the results that have come out of these conferences, and then how can we as regular members of the diaspora participate, and what's our role, and what can we do. So just some housekeeping items. Everybody is on mute just so that we can minimize background noise. So if you do have a question at any point in the webinar, you can go to your Zoom console and type it into chat, and then I will read it to Luisa. And again, we don't have to wait until the end. If you have questions at any point, just go ahead and type it in, and we'll type it in. So this is Luisa. This is her contact information. So after this webinar, if you want to get in touch with her and you have questions or suggestions, or you want to go to the next event, you can either register through this website or contact her directly. And she's going to tell you a little bit about herself as well, and how long she's been in this role, and everything that she's been doing. And so we're excited to learn a little bit more about her as well. And I think with that, I'm going to switch it over to her slides and hand it over to Luisa. So take it away.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Good morning, everybody. It is really a pleasure to be connected with all of you in the United States, the great Portuguese-American community. This is, as Angela said, my current job in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Portugal, working directly with the Secretary of State for the Portuguese communities abroad, Dr. José Luís Carneiro, who maybe some of you will know personally. He's visited the United States quite a few times. So I've been doing this job for over a year now. In the Foreign Service, I've served for 30 years, more or less. And among other countries, I had the great pleasure of serving in the United States, in the Embassy of Portugal in Washington, D.C. And that's actually where I had the pleasure of working with PALCUS and meeting Angela and all the members. Well, some of them actually, and we had some great initiatives together. But the Foreign Service took me a bit around the world, and I did a bit of everything, because actually that's what diplomats are meant for. We are supposed to be specialists of nothing and to know a bit about everything. This is the joke we always tell among ourselves. But I'm very happy to have this opportunity, and I thank PALCUS for that. Since we have a very dynamic and active community of entrepreneurs in the United States of America. It's the perfect marriage, shall we say, because the Portuguese have by nature an entrepreneur spirit, and the Americans too. So it can only result in good things. So in our the Portuguese foreign policy has main pillars, main objectives, if you will, which are widely known, such as European integration, transatlantic relations, the promotion of relations with the Portuguese-speaking countries around the world, multilateral organizations. But since we have about 1/3 of the Portuguese don't live in Portugal, they live abroad. So, of course, the promotion of the Portuguese communities abroad and the support to them is one of our major foreign policy goals. And when we talk about promoting the Portuguese communities abroad, that includes protecting them, helping them, servicing them when they need IDs or consular protection, but that also can be seen from an economic and business point of view, because all these Portuguese abroad are doing great things, and they are doing great things in the countries where they live, where they are very respected and very well integrated, but they also never lose contact with their original country or the country of their grandparents or great-grandparents. So the thing is that we have this ability to integrate very well where we live, and at the same time to keep in touch with our roots, our cultural roots, our Portuguese language, and the economic side to it is also important, since the studies and statistics show that most Portuguese people, when they think of returning to Portugal, many do, especially those in Europe, those outside Europe, not so much. But whenever they think of returning to Portugal or investing in Portugal, 85 to 90% of them do it in their hometown, in the village where they come from. They don't go back to Lisbon or Porto, the two big cities. They don't go and invest there. They prefer always to go back to their real roots, to their little hometown in the northeast of Portugal or in the south. And there is great potential there, because if you look at the economic atmosphere in Portugal right now, recovering in a very positive way from years of economic crisis. There's an increasingly business-friendly atmosphere in Portugal. Numbers don't lie. We are growing exports, growing in tourism in many ways, and so the internationalization of our economy is a major part of that process of recovery. And within that internationalization, the millions of Portuguese citizens and people of Portuguese heritage living abroad all over the world are a very important strategic asset. And we have to consider it fully and value it and empower it. And that's what we try to do here. That and connecting them with, if they wish, with Portugal at national and local and regional levels. Like I said before, with their hometowns where they come from. So, and the Secretary of State, who travels a lot around the world to visit the Portuguese communities, and he always makes sure that he has an economic component in his visits, whether in his programs of visits with he meets with Portuguese businessmen abroad, the chambers of commerce, entrepreneurs. So I'm trying to follow the slides as well. Sometimes I get a bit excited with what I'm telling you. So
sorry, tell me if I need to slow down.
No, Andrew, it's fine. It's just that so many things come to my mind at the same time. So, for instance, now you're seeing how examples of how our country is getting more and more known, and that also we have to keep it a two-way street. So we have to protect those abroad, but support those who wish to come back or stay abroad but wish to create some kind of business in Portugal. So we can go maybe to the next slide. As the Secretary of State says, the Portuguese have this unique ability of taking Portugal to the world and bringing the world into Portugal. And we are, by nature, we are natural influencers, I would say. We communicate easily, we integrate easily, we facilitate, we have built fantastic life histories, stories all over the world. So we here at the guide, the Gabinete de Apoio ao Investidor da Diáspora, which translates roughly into Office to Support the Diaspora Investor, we need to work with those Portuguese who stay abroad, those who intend to return, and also a new category, if you will, and those who choose mobility. In Europe, it is more and more common to have people, Portuguese, that go and work in another European country for a year and then come back. And you cannot use the traditional term immigration in this case. We prefer to talk about mobility. But, you know, we have to work with all of the Portuguese that go abroad, stay abroad, or go back and forth, basically.
Or maybe it's those of us who are trying to find a way to be bicontinental.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because we also have we know a lot of Portuguese in the United States who have projects developing in Portugal currently. Some already are working with us and being supported by us. So basically this kind of sums it up. So there is a clear perception that the Portuguese entrepreneurs living abroad are of strategic importance and have a very relevant economic expression. So they have, we usually say they have a double potential, because they can be the origin of investment, so they can be investors in Portugal, but they can also inversely help us internationalize Portuguese products or regional initiatives. By staying abroad, they don't need to come back. I mean, potentially all the Portuguese-Americans living in the US can help us in our work and they do it already. They've been doing it for decades. They promote Portugal in their own particular ways by helping promote products, Portuguese food, for instance, or other products of arts and crafts, traditional arts and crafts. Everybody knows the natas, the custard tarts, and they're everywhere right now. So it is the Portuguese people that take these traditions abroad, and they then become a success with the local markets, with the international markets. So, and this is what we are working with. It's a massive endeavor, but we are slowly developing it. We are a small team, but full of energy. So we, over the last few years, basically since 2016, it's not been very long, we've felt the need to develop mechanisms to support and facilitate this strategic asset, and to also create some sort of institutional framework so that we could be able to promote then contacts and network with people. So our office, the Gabinete de Apoio ao Investidor da Diáspora, was created, and it works, like I said, we report directly to the Secretary of State for the Portuguese communities abroad. And what we do, we don't directly support investment projects in the sense that we give subsidies or funds, or we are more like a hub, an information platform. We see people that are interested in investing in Portugal, or that want to internationalize a certain product through the Portuguese living abroad, and we just tell them who they should talk to. We direct them to the relevant ministries or to the person who can inform them about the subsidies or programs of support that are in force for their kind of initiatives. So we function more like a hub, and a means and not an end, so to say.
So that's a great point, just to be, make sure that everybody understands that, because one of my questions was actually going to be, how do you work with an entity such as Portugal Ventures? So perhaps you would actually recommend either an entrepreneur or a business opportunity to Portugal Ventures. Is that the case?
Absolutely, yes, that's the case. We have several networks we work with, and in the government, we have a network of focal points in each ministry that is relevant to investment projects, the Ministry of Industry, of Economy, or institutions like Portugal Ventures, or ICEP, which is within the Portuguese Foreign Ministry, and that is the big agency to promote trade and investment. Because one thing is important, and I will, it will be in a slide further down this slideshow, but the important thing, what is different about what we do? Because ICEP was always there, has always been there doing their great job. And they work mostly with medium, large, and big size companies and projects. But actually no one was covering, from an institutional point of view, the so-called micro business. I'm talking about Mr. Oliveira, who lives in San Fernando Valley and wants to open a cafe in the north of Portugal. This is just a simple example, but this is the so-called micro business, which micro and small businesses are an important core of a country's economy. And we work with those micro businesses, micro projects coming from the Portuguese communities abroad. So it's a very small, very specific niche, but it is very active and it is bigger than we think, and it was not really being covered. So that is what we set out to do. So
I believe it, because I feel like even just in the small group of people that I can think of, everybody has an idea of a business they would like to do, and these would all be considered micro businesses. So I'm sure that there are thousands out there.
Yeah, and coming all areas of activity you can imagine. I can just tell you two examples: artificial eyes in France, a project in France, and there's this designer in the Azores who wished to internationalize handbag purses made of pineapple leaves, so in a sustainable material, which is actually very pretty. So this is just two examples. It's their one-person businesses sometimes, but if you think of how long these people have been away from Portugal, some of them are second, third generation Portuguese. They've never been in Portugal, so they don't know the legislation in force. They don't know what programs and subsidies are available, and we are here to tell them or to forward them to the person who can tell them. So we identify these micro and small investment projects and facilitate them the best we can. If we have the information ourselves, we give this information. If we don't, we don't. It would be impossible to have here all the information, because every case is a different case. So we try to forward people to the institutions or persons who can better inform them. So, and our slogan is of these meetings, I will tell you about, is to know in order to invest. Conhecer para investir. You have to know first, and then you invest. You don't put your money blindly in something. You first have to be informed, right? So this is the motto we use in our events.
That's great.
And like I said before, I like this slide a lot because sometimes you're just misled. You didn't talk to the right person. There was an honest mistake somewhere along the way, and then your business is hindered or delayed or not finished, and it's a shame, really, because we want to see each business person as an individual. And this is sometimes their project of a lifetime, and meant to be followed, who knows, by their children or grandchildren. So we like to put this personal touch in what we do. This is to say, if people are away from Portugal, one more reason to have someone to talk to and to inform them. So we facilitate, we support, we guide. We don't turn the business into a reality ourselves. We couldn't do that. We don't have the know-how or the expertise for that, but we know the people in the different ministries. And also remember when I told you that most people go back to their hometown or the hometown of their ancestors. Well, we have a very strong connection with the city councils, the municipalities. We work in a network with them. So we can forward the person directly to their council of origin, to the small village in the northeast of Portugal, because we have a contact point there.
Mm-hmm.
It works because it's a small country. So we basically have great municipalities very active and working with us. And this, we also do the other side, the reverse, if you will, because as I said, there's a lot of Portuguese products that are now getting to be more and more known abroad, but you have the usual channels of exports and promotion, of course, but the Portuguese communities abroad can be a great help with that by helping promote national products and arts and crafts. Mm-hmm. We have a great ongoing initiative which aims at promoting the filigree, Portuguese filigree, you know, these really thin, beautiful gold crafts made of gold, and from the north of Portugal. So we work with very, very specific products and try to organize actions in the Portuguese communities to promote them.
As it pertains to arts and crafts specifically, because you're right, they are becoming more and more popular abroad, and I can say especially here in the United States. Are there programs or incentives that you know about and can inform, entrepreneurs about when it comes to tax implications, or making sure that getting the product here isn't so cost prohibitive that the time we put a price on it here, it's so expensive no one will want to buy it.
I know.
Or things like that.
Yes, we have also our focal point in the Ministry of Finance, and in these encounters, in these annual meetings we organize, there's always the one of the leaders of the Tax and Customs Office. So to clarify these questions, I know we have, look at VAT, we have 23% in Portugal, and in the US, most states have what, 6%? So that is already a big difference, and it can hinder business. So there are ways there are ways to help the promotion of these products, and we usually forward people to the relevant colleagues in the Ministry of Finance. Yes.
Okay. We actually had a question come in that says, are the contacts offered by GAID exclusive to government offices and agencies, or open to industry as well?
No, they are meant for people, everyone. I mean, we are not working in a closed circuit. Our purpose is the opposite, to open up. We usually work for entrepreneurs, private entrepreneurs, anyone who wishes to, who has a project of investment in Portugal is welcome, and we try to help him or her the best we can. It is in this process of help that we connect them to other government officers, with other ministries and institutions, to find the right person to help. But the guide's work is directed at private businesses and everybody. Everybody who has a project is most welcome.
So just a clarification on that question, I think they were saying, when you refer an entrepreneur to a resource, is it always a referral to a government agency, or let's say, do you refer them to another entrepreneur in Portugal that has done well and might be in the same industry and could serve as something like that?
Yes, I understand. I thought you meant. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We answered 2 questions.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we actually do the so-called matching as well upon request. If someone in the area of metalworks, for instance, wishes to contact partners or to find companies led by Portuguese in other countries that also work with metal, we put them in touch with each other. We match them, so to say.
Oh, great.
I'm talking about metalworks because we had a recent case of a metal company in the north of Portugal who wanted a contact in Australia, and we found them this fantastic lady who is a Portuguese Australian and also the CEO and owner of a company in this area of metalworks. So that's why I came up with this example. Yes,
got it.
we
Okay.
met companies. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. We have another question, and it says, I would love to import Portuguese and Missourian made items and sell it here in the US. Where would I begin?
Well, I think that the best way would be to email us. We have to see what kind of project it is, the size of the project. If it is a middle, big size project, the best interlocutor will be and will always be AICEP, the Agency for Trade and Investment of Portugal. If it is a micro or small project, we can put this person in touch with the relevant people in Azores. Actually, one of the last meeting we had of diaspora investors was held in Terceira Island in Azores. So we got good connections there, and we can put you in touch as if you send us a short summary of your project, of your business plan, if you will, we'll be happy to help.
Okay.
And put you in touch with Missourian people. Yeah.
Great. And then just one other question while I'm thinking about it, just seeing who has logged into our webinar today. I'm seeing more film, TV, art projects that, aren't just for, let's say, feel good things. They're actually trying to turn them into a business. Are these things that you can also help with in referring to the right resource?
Not directly, but also in this case, we can forward them people who, you mean film producers, if there's
someone putting together a TV show or a movie or a book or an art, something like that.
If it's related to Portugal, if it is about Portugal, absolutely. The Turismo de Portugal, Tourism of Portugal, has a special program to support film producers that have content related to Portugal, because of course it helps promote our country. So,
sure.
And
great.
Also in the Ministry of Culture, and Instituto Camões also has cultural programs. So yes, definitely. We had a film crew here 2 days ago.
Great.
Yeah. So the other thing we try to do, and that is related to the previous question on whether we match companies. Yes, these events we organize are mainly to inform. So there's always stage presentations by the relevant institutions informing people, but outside the theater, if you will, there's always a big room for people to connect and to communicate over coffee and Portuguese pastries. And some people, I'm usually inside, I've got to be like the MC of the whole thing, but people outside tell me it's much more fun there, because they can actually see the business partnerships being made and cards exchange, and it's really very lively. So we are here also to put people in contact with each other, business people. Yeah.
Okay. 2 more questions have just come in. One is, do you have information on buying homes that to be used for tourism? Does the government have a program where they give incentives or resources to somebody who, let's say, buys a home in Portugal and then rents it out or makes it a tourist destination?
Well, if it is within the area of tourism, I would refer these people to the Tourism of Portugal as well. They have special incentives. We don't deal directly with real estate. It is a trickier area, so to say, because it entails other areas that are way outside our range of work, like residence permits, visas. So this we have to see case by case and refer them to the Ministry of Interior as well. But if it's for tourism, I'm sure the Tourism of Portugal can help.
Okay. Another question, does the GAID publish a newsletter or some other type of publication on a regular basis to the Portuguese community?
I would very much like to start doing it soon. As I said, we are a very small team of 3, whether you believe it or not, but it works well. We work very well together. But yes, we've talked a lot of times about producing a regular newsletter and having it distributed to our huge mailing list. Yes, thank you very much for the suggestion. It is in our minds, and we only need a bit more time to make this thing work.
I feel there's never enough time, right?
Yeah, and there's never enough people, but then you get too many people, and sometimes it doesn't go so well. We have to always find the right balance. Right, we're looking at a lot of flags right now. When I told you that we are just 3 because we are connected to several networks that help us in our job. So I told you about the network inside the government of the relevant ministries, and in our own ministry, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we could not work without the great help of our colleagues deployed abroad in consulates and embassies worldwide. We have a very big diplomatic and consular network, and we are constantly connected to our colleagues, and they are often the people who do the stuff on the ground. They are the people who know the business of the local business scene. They know the sensitivities. They can feel the needs, and they assess the situation much better than we do. We are sitting in Lisbon, of course. I've had lots of experience abroad, but the countries and people evolve. So we rely very much on our colleagues in embassies and consulates to let us know about needs, and also to help implement our programs on the ground. Right now, the top slide on the left is my beloved Embassy of Portugal in Washington, D.C. I couldn't resist inserting this photo.
So this slide is actually a good segue into a question that just came in about, so I know you're going to talk about the actual events that you've had and where they've been, and all of them have been in Portugal so far. Are there plans to have any of these meetings in the U.S.? Because I know that a lot of people would like to go, but getting to Portugal just for a few days is quite difficult, especially for us in California when it's very far. 12,000 miles to go just for a few days is very hard. So any talk about having an event here?
Not yet. We actually had that question last year from someone in France. The main objective is to attract investment to Portugal and to, at the same time, to consolidate the ties between the Portuguese abroad and those here, and also we usually choose locations where investment is mostly needed, where in poorer areas or regions, or where the most immigrants come from. A lot of the Portuguese people abroad come from the north of Portugal originally. So we've only started in December 2016. We've had 2 annual meetings and 1 midterm meeting so far. So who knows? I've had that same question coming from France. We could think about it, but then we talked about lack of time, lack of staff, and I will add lack of money. So because, but again, we would have to rely very much on the Portuguese communities to help us organize such a thing. Thank you for that idea. It wouldn't be easy, but I also realize that it is very difficult for people to come from all over the world. And guess what? That's why we organize these meetings either in the during the summer holidays, like we did in July in the Azores, or near Christmas. We always have the annual meetings in mid-December, hoping people will be home for the holidays and they will pop in. It's not really the right way to do it, but just imagine last year in Viana do Castelo we had 500 570 attendees, and we could possibly never pay for all those people to come here. It's got to be part of the investment, if you will.
Right.
But I've got good news. We are planning. It is not yet decided or defined, but we are looking into some sort of live streaming or Facebook Live from the next meeting in Penafiel. So stay tuned, because there might be something being streamed. We are starting to look at our communication strategy, and it would definitely include some live broadcasting.
That's great. Well, and I will also just say here that, you know, as chair of PALCUS, I can commit that we would help organize an event if you wanted to collaborate on, you know, whether it's in San Francisco or New England, New York, New Jersey. There's areas where we could maybe have a couple of different events, and we'd be happy to help make that happen.
Well, I would be very happy to make that happen as well. And let's keep in touch and see what resources we can put together.
Excellent.
Because basically these meetings are made of people. People who want to invest and want information and want to meet other people, other business people. But we also need the speakers. We always have people from the different ministries. So we would have to be creative and find some kind of video conference type of thing. Let's work on that. Let's try to come up with some ideas, Angela.
Sure. One comment about the live stream: if it's not able to be live streamed, perhaps you can record it and then make it available online later. Yeah. That's an idea as well.
Okay, but we don't want to stop people from coming. So we want you to come. You are most welcome. We do realize, however, how expensive and time-consuming it is. So again, we have to strike the right balance there as well. Yeah. So next slide up. Okay, it's what I've told you about, that we have a very close coordination with the municipalities all over Portugal and also in the Azores and Madeira Islands. And in most of these municipalities, they have a little office called Gabinete de Apoio ao Imigrante, the office to support immigrants. Both those wanting to come back to Portugal and those wanting to go abroad, to live abroad. They are small information desks who basically tell a person who has just arrived from the US, for instance, and they are settling in Portugal. They want to know what taxes are like, legislation, housing, So there's these help desks in almost every municipality. We are striving to have them in all municipalities. Total of 380, it's impossible, but we will get there at some point. I'm sure, because these people need to be also trained and to inform. They can't just sit and talk to you and be nice. They have to have the knowledge to inform you. Again, this is the other network I told you about we work with in the other ministries, public services in general. They clarify your doubts, taxes, immigration, work permits, residence permits, so many things. And all representatives of these institutions participate as speakers in the annual meetings to give all the main information in their areas. Okay, this map, I probably have to update it soon. So when I first did it, I was really happy because we've been working for not even 2 years yet. And these are the regions where we already have projects. Okay, it is I think the slide was a bit the configuration of the slide is not very accurate. Something must have happened when we emailed, because the blue dots are supposed to be the countries where we have projects coming from or going to. So this blue cluster of dots somewhere between the British Isles and Greenland were supposed to be over Europe.
We can figure it out. I think we can figure it out.
Yeah. So okay, definitely the blue dot that was supposed to be on the United States is somewhere north of Vancouver right now, but you can figure it out. So we have Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, China. You know, we have participants and projects in the 5 continents, which is really nice. It shows, above all, how the Portuguese go everywhere and work everywhere and are entrepreneurs everywhere. It's fantastic. We have great life stories and examples, and our meetings are also a great opportunity for people to share their experiences. And sometimes we are literally in tears, because there's so many beautiful stories of people who went away with nothing and built empires.
Wow.
So it makes us so proud. So this is like what Guide does in short. We work with micro and small businesses of local or regional scope, and that are connected to our diaspora abroad. So we work with multiple areas of activity and in all regions of Portugal. And since we are a small team, we keep it personal and talk to everybody and answer all our messages. So please reach out to us if you think we can be of help. Okay, so right now let's talk about these annual meetings. By now you know what they are. This is what we've done so far. The first one was held in Sintra. We had 300 people, business people from 35 countries, Portuguese or Portuguese people or people of Portuguese ancestry. Last year in Viana do Castelo, we already went, we had 540 participants from 38 countries from the 5 continents. In the Azores, this was like an experiment, but which turned out to be a success. The Secretary of State had this great idea with the support of the Missourian and Madeiran regional governments of doing also regional meetings. So because both Azores and Madeira have very specific diasporas in very specific countries. And that is, yes, let me first go back to the annual meetings and then I'll tell you all about the regional one. So that is a perfect slide. So these are just a few photos of the next one, please, Angela. Can you show yes, the orange one, yeah. So these are photos from our last meeting in Viana do Castelo. We had 10, 12 members of government attending, because we always invite the ministers and secretaries of state responsible for the areas related to business. We had mayors, chambers of commerce, and of course, lots and lots of business people. So the main aim was to provide the business people with information concerning their projects, so what they need to invest or to create a partnership with Portuguese investors, because that's also a possibility. Then we can go to the next slide. We had a full house, as you can see. And so the other aim is obviously to create a good atmosphere for people to network and exchange contacts and meet. As I told you, there's also a lot of great life stories, which people share, as well as their experiences and best practices and not so good practices, because we also learn from our mistakes. And they find out there's this common affinity, this affinity they all share. They are all Portuguese people living abroad, but sharing very common goals and a very common approach to business and life, and that's always a nice thing. So this is just slideshows of different companies. We had from California, Pedro Vieira, and West to West. It's one of the slides here. We had Pacific Formwork from Australia. So Portuguese companies internationalizing. You must have heard about the Portuguese network of the network of Portuguese restaurants in the world. We are also involved in that project. Which aims to certify the Portuguese restaurants that are all over the world, and a lot of them in the United States.
So are these presentations of companies that are sort of pitching their idea and then looking for to invest?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So people can come to our events as participants and to network and to meet other people, those who wish to, and if there's available slots, they can go on stage and show what they're doing, just like the ones you see here. The photos are really small, but you get to see some of them. And also Portuguese initiatives aiming to internationalize in the markets abroad. Mm-hmm. They also have their pitch. So it is a very dynamic program, and it usually runs very late. So these are examples of Portuguese initiatives that are internationalizing to markets of other countries. You have the filigree hearts, for instance, or the olive oil from Trás-os-Montes, which is in northeastern Portugal, or the program I just told you about, the Taste Portugal program, connecting the Portuguese restaurants in the world. So because often with this promotion of Portugal comes more tourism. It is like a circular process. The more we promote, the more people are interested in Portugal, and not just the Portuguese diaspora, but also nationals of other countries. And a lot are coming to live in Portugal right now.
We have a question. Do you need to be fluent in Portuguese to attend these? And that actually would apply to somebody like me, right? That I would did, but I'm not fluent.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. It's this is another budget question. We cannot at this stage afford the translation services. We would love to, but right now these events are in Portuguese. However, they don't require, I would say for the institutional presentations, yes, you need a certain proficiency in Portuguese, yeah. I don't want to lead people into mistakes. You know, if you have, you know, the president of ICEP or of the Tax and Customs Authority explaining to you what you need to do for your business, you really need to know Portuguese and to understand all the little details, I'm afraid.
Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. So is this an example? You're going to give us how this, is this a Portuguese company and then?
Yes, this is just random examples of really good initiatives we've been promoting and helping to promote. You can, you know, you can show the slides more quickly if you'd like. I think they speak for ourselves. Olive oil, Portuguese restaurants in the world. The filigree.
So are these examples of now we would actually see some of these brands in the US or in other countries as a result of some of these events?
Yeah, with the help of the Portuguese communities. No one knows better how to promote than them, because they relate also effectively to the products. So on the right you can see this is a 19th century cookbook from the Royal Portuguese Court, which went to Brazil, and we found the Secretary of State found this in the Portuguese Royal Library in northeastern Brazil. And we managed with some supports to republish it and to launch it in Brazil. And we are wanting to launch it in Portugal as well. So sometimes it's really small initiatives, you know, a cookbook, a royal cookbook, but actually you can cook a great dinner based on it. So, and it's also, you know, sometimes investment is not just raw money and profit. It can be culture. The promotion of our culture and language is also a type of investment and a type of promotion. So we also bet a lot on on initiatives that don't aim at an immediate financial profit. To us, if the Portuguese filigree is known in the more known in the United States, we've already made a gain, because it's also our traditions and culture that have been made known to you. So that's important. Right, so Azores, back to Azores. Yes, there we had this idea of making midterm meetings in the islands, because they have, the Azores, as you know better than I do, have a very specific diaspora, and many Azorians live in the United States or in Canada or in Brazil mostly. So, and just as Madeirans chose mostly Venezuela, South Africa, England to immigrate to in the past. So we realized we had specific groups we wanted to reach out to. So it was a success, this first midterm meeting in the Azores in July. We had a lot of participants from Canada and the United States, also from France, and some regional businessmen from the Azores were able also to participate and tell us about their projects. And the next one will take place next year in July in Madeira. So I will let you know. But right now we are very busy preparing the December meeting in Penafiel. So still on the Azores, of course, we try to go to areas of regions of immigration, and to focus on their main economic areas, strategic economic areas. So in the case of Azores, obviously, we focused on the maritime economy, science and technology, tourism, and agriculture and food, so which are the main economic areas of these islands. And we had some members of government attending, both the national government and the regional government of Azores. So we can go to the next slide. Right, and this is now the time to present the third annual meeting, which will take place on December 13th through 16th in Penafiel. Penafiel is a town about 40 kilometers away from Porto, in the north of Portugal, with great access. So you can fly to Porto and take a train or rent a car. And it is in the middle of a region that is very, it has very uneven levels of development. Let me say that this is, we call them intermunicipal communities, which is like, in this case, a group of 12 municipalities united to organize this meeting, which is fantastic. And among these 12 councils, we have a bit of everything. We have really wealthy communities with within the industries of shoemaking, textile, furniture, cultural tourism, food, but we also have economically depressed areas within this region. And of course, we want to promote these regions as a good place to invest, because if the economic indicators are not so good, that can also mean that you will have people to hire. You can create jobs in these regions and help develop it. And avoid that all jobs, all companies, all businesses concentrate in the big cities by the sea. We have to look more and more to the interior of Portugal and to its economy. So our aim is to go more and more for smaller towns in the interior. So you are all invited to participate in this third annual meeting. So venue and days, the venue will be the big pavilion where they hold their fairs. So there's plenty of room for hundreds of people. And we are now starting the logistics and organization of the whole event. We will be organizing a press conference late October. I can let you know if you're interested. And as I said, you need only to, of course, you have to be in Portugal, hopefully, during that period. But of course, attending the meeting is completely free. And you can basically go to every possible conference and panel and networking event across the program. So all of you are most welcome. You need, however, to register in the email which will be in the last slide of this presentation. I will let you know when we go there. Right, and of course, this is exactly what I'm doing right now with you. We try to make our work known also not to the communities, to the Portuguese living abroad, and also inside Portugal. We go a lot to universities or city councils, foundations, business associations, and explain what we do and make ourselves available for connecting people with people and with information. We are supplying information. We have a focus also on what we call the qualified young diaspora. This is more of an European phenomena, if you will. During the economic crisis, a lot of our best brains left Portugal and for other European destinations and stayed there. And we would, now that our economy is in full recovery and business is thriving again, we would love these people to want to come back. We don't force anyone to come back, but we have to create the conditions and the incentives for these people to wish to come. So we partner with foundations like the AEP Foundation, Associação Empresarial de Portugal, also in Porto, and we collaborate in programs aiming at the networks of researchers and student and graduates abroad, like with PAPS, for instance, you know, the Portuguese-American graduate. Yes, so we keep in touch with them, and because they like I said at the beginning, some want to come back, some wish to stay. No problem, they can help us where they are. So if we have researchers and graduates and university students, Portuguese in the United States, they can help promote the country as well. They can be our best ambassadors in what they do because they do it so well. So
that's great.
Yeah, I think our connection is, can you hear me, Angela? Yes?
Yep, I can still hear you.
Okay, good. Okay. Right, this is, I'm not going to read it out, you can read it yourselves, but basically, why is this work important? It's very much in the beginning. We are past our trial and error phase, I believe, but we are still in the beginning. We are a small team wanting to help a lot of people, but we need to have big goals, otherwise nothing is done. So any suggestions, any ideas are most welcome. We will definitely look at the live streaming issue of the meetings. We will look into the idea of having these meetings in other countries. It's difficult, but nothing is impossible, because we are dealing with a strategic asset. We are dealing with individuals, with people, with their projects, but if you put them all together, we're talking major business here and major pride as well, because this is our people doing stuff abroad and in Portugal. So we have to respect and pay tribute to that. And in the meantime, we also contribute to our country's economy, and to create networks of information, and to put diaspora entrepreneurship in the agendas, in the national agendas, in the regional and local agendas, in the companies and businesses agendas. So it cannot no longer be ignored. It is a sector of economy that can no longer be ignored.
Agreed.
So maybe we can look at, I think we are pretty much concluding here.
Yeah, we're getting towards the end, I think.
Yeah. So yes, that's exactly what I said. It's we are happy to see that all the Portuguese living abroad are being considered, and the different ways to work with them are entering even the university syllabus, and there's classes being taught about it in universities, and it's part of business decision making these days. So, and it's like I said, and this would be our last slide, it is also becoming an important element of the Portuguese foreign policy overall. And this beautiful photo is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Portugal. This is where I'm talking to you from right now. And there you go. You have our phone numbers there and our email address, guide@mne.gov.pt. And please, if you wish to forward any questions to us, any projects, initiatives, or if you want to register for the meeting in December in Penafiel, please use this email address to register, and we'll get back to you very, very quickly and give you all the information you need. Under this web address, you can also see a draft program of the Penafiel meeting. It is a very, very simple draft, but there's something there already. Hopefully we will be updating the information in this link, so stay tuned and have a look at it every so often. Soon there will be a more developed program there. So that's it, and I can answer any questions you have. Thank you very much again for the opportunity, Angela and PALCUS.
Oh, this is great. Thank you so much. I think it's a really fantastic initiative, and I hope it continues, and I hope that people will email you their projects and just, continue to grow the network and continue the conversation. Obviously not 100% of projects that get involved will happen, but that's life, right? That's with anything.
Right, of course. There's always a percentage of things that don't go well, but that, like you say, that's life, but we are here to help, and we help within our possibilities and competencies.
Right.
But we also make it very clear to people if their projects are not up to the game, or you may want to review that or go back and find a strategic partner or a solicitor to help you. We don't fool people. We are here really to help, and if we are honest, if a project is not yet developed to the point that it can be turned into reality, we will say that to the person, because that's our job. Help.
That's great. Well, we are 5 minutes after the hour, so I think we are over time, but it was a lot of really good information. And here is the information, like you said, the email, the phone number, and the website. So after we conclude our webinar, everybody out there, if you think of a question or, come up with an idea, that you'd like to try and get some support on, here's who you reach out to. So, and I want to thank everybody out there for participating and joining us, whether it was during your lunch hour, your breakfast, or what have you. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that this webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted to YouTube as well as our website, the PALCUS website, on our webinars page. And then we do also provide the PDFs on our website and our Facebook page. So all the great information that was in Luisa's presentation, you will have access to that PowerPoint. And please, these are free resources for the community, so please share them with family and friends. And if you have an idea of a webinar that you would like us to do, please let us know that. And then also, if you have a business or you have an organization and you are interested in reaching thousands of people throughout the diaspora, we ask you to sponsor a webinar. They're quite affordable, and because we provide these free to the community, and our webinars have reached more than 10,000 people across the country and even the world. So because they do get watched by people outside the United States. So if you're interested in sponsoring even just one webinar, please contact us at palcus@palcus.org. And with that, thank you again, Luisa. I really, really appreciate your time. And I very much look forward to.
Thank you so much.
I want to
Thank
work
you so much.
to plan an event here in the States. So you keep that in mind and keep us
Yeah, and let me say thank you very much, and to send a big hug to the great Portuguese-American community in the United States. I enjoyed very much being online with you, and I'm available for anything you need. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada. Temos que falar.
Obrigada.
Muito obrigada a todos. Beijinho muito grande.
Obrigada. Igualmente.
Obrigada, Angela.
Okay, ciao. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.